This is WTOP-TV Channel 9, Washington, D.C. It's 1 o'clock. This is Eyewitness News, the 1 p.m. afternoon report, Wednesday, August 15th, 1973, with Bob Dalton and the news, and Peter Wiggins and the weather. Here now, Bob Dalton. Good afternoon, everybody. On this Wednesday, August 15, 1973, here's what's happening. Top story at 1 p.m. is President Nixon will end his self-imposed silence on Watergate tonight with one of the most critical speeches of his long political career. At a time when a new Gallup poll shows that Mr. Nixon's support has sunk to the lowest figure for any president in 20 years, he will speak on national TV and radio from the Oval Office and the White House. And Mr. Nixon's speech will be carried live at 9 p.m. right here in Channel 9. The president yesterday put the finishing touches on his long-awaited speech, which will be accompanied by a more detailed version. That was a written statement of the Watergate events. It will be his third statement on Watergate, but his first since the Senate Select Watergate Committee began its hearings. White House officials have predicted that Mr. Nixon will seek renewed support from American people in his television speech. Today's officials say that Mr. Nixon will admit to a lack of vigilance concerning the cover-up of the Watergate break-in, but will be denied that he have any either advanced knowledge of the break-in at the Democratic headquarters of knowledge of the continuing White House cover-up from last summer until March of this year. The 37 days of Senate hearings have been raised questions and contradictions about Mr. Nixon's and earlier versions of the events. For instance, Assistant White House Counsel John W. Dean III had testified that he believed that the president was aware of an effort to cover up Watergate. Dean also flatly disputed that Mr. Nixon's earlier statement that he began intensive new inquiries into the whole matter on March 21st. The president comments that no investigation at all. Dean issued that rather the president, Haldeman, and Ehrlichman command to protect them. A second Nixon campaign aide reportedly will plead guilty this week to charge of conspiracy to obstruct justice in the Watergate scandal. A spokesman for Judge J. Sirica said that the Watergate prosecutor's office that asked for time Thursday to permit Jeb Stuart Magruder, former deputy campaign manager for the committee for the re-election of the president, plead guilty to information, a legal maneuver that eliminates the need for indictment. But Magruder's attorney James J. Bierbauer said last night that Magruder will not be there Thursday. Bierbauer declined to explain if the meant that report was wrong, however. In June 27th, Frederick C. LaRue, a former White House aide, was top aide to John N. Mitchell. When Mitchell was campaign manager, was permitted to plead guilty to a strategic conspiracy count for a return for a promise of full cooperation with the Watergate Special Prosecution Force. Magruder reported also. President Nixon's popularity has plunged from its high point in January to the lowest rating of any president in 20 years, the Gallup poll shows. Another survey finds that if the election were held now, George McGovern might win.
But it can also lead to tooth decay and bad breath. That's why there's Biotin, available as an oral rinse toothpaste.
Federal prosecutors investigating Vice President Spiro T. Agnew have been told by several Maryland engineering contractors that they made regular cash payments personally to Agnew to receive choice state contracts. While Agnew was governor of Maryland, informed sources said yesterday, in addition, sources said that the prosecutors also investigating allegations that since Agnew became vice president, some money collected from Maryland businessmen on his behalf, as similarly as campaign contributions has been used to influence the awarding of federal contracts by the General Service Administration, which builds and leases most federal government offices. The investigation and allegations including and involving GSA contracts let Maryland individuals focus on the moment on the intermediaries who are alleged to have collected on the money on Agnew's behalf. The sources said no GSA records of officials have been subpoenaed in the data by the federal prosecutors in Baltimore. Speaking of GSA Administrator Arthur Simpson, a GSA spokesman said late yesterday, to this moment, no one has brought to our attention even a hint of impropriety. We have had no contact whatsoever from the U.S. Attorney's Office. We consider it completely irresponsible to Washington Post to print such an allegation and impugn the tactic the agency and its officials without presenting us with a shred of evidence of wrongdoing. Agnew strongly asserted his innocence of any wrongdoing once again that yesterday in a letter to U.S. Attorney George Beale, in which Agnew made his personal financial records available and the prosecutors they told requested. I have done nothing wrong. Agnew told Steele, I have nothing to hide. The allegation of regular payments made Agnew where he was governor are coming from consultant engineers who are themselves under investigation in federal probe. Two of them, Lester Metz of Metz Challenge Association and Jerome Wolf, the president and subsidiary of the Griner Corporation, have stated publicly fired the attorneys that they testified before a federal grand jury in Baltimore, apparently in return for some leniency. Agnew in his nationally televised speech. Vice President Sparty Agnew agreed yesterday to make his personal and financial records made available to federal prosecutors. He also volunteered to submit a personal interview about the allegation that he would accept kickbacks from Maryland contractors. In a letter to U.S. Attorney George Bail, the Vice President affirmed to his innocence. He said he was eager to be of any help of his can. As I advised you many months ago that I wish I had no way to impede your investigation, Agnew wrote, I have done nothing wrong, I have nothing to hide, and I have no desire save that justice to be done speedily and effectively. Accordingly, the records you request are now available to you. Bill wrote that Vice President on August 1st, informing him that he was under an investigation for possible tax fraud, extortion, bribery, and conspiracy violations. In a letter, he asked Agnew to turn over the financial papers for his state of actor January 1st, 1961. Agnew was the governor of Maryland. The Vice President responded to the charges by calling in a press conference last week to declare his innocence and label other charges that he had accepted regular kickback income as damn lies. While Agnew's aides have been said over ever since it was the Vice President's desire to make the records available, the issue was left in a depth by the Vice President's legal lawyers. While the attorneys J.H. Tupkis, Martha Loden, and Judah Best sought an extension at a time from federal prosecutors, unconfirmed reports leaked out of the White House that President Nixon was opposed to release of the records according to a dispute with the corporation and the Agnew was prosecutors was seen undercutting the position of President Nixon refusing to furnish prosecutors with the tapes and documents relating to the Watergate case. Yesterday, the Vice President returned to his office after a 4-day vacation during in Southern California and promptly decided to issue himself. Acting on what an aide said was the Vice President's desire to resolve the issue quickly, Agnew fired off a letter with hand delivered to Bill yesterday afternoon in Baltimore.
You know the feeling? What changed your mind?
In Charleston, South Carolina, civilian and military personnel on the Air Force base are charged today with that thousands of dollars worth of excess electronic equipment, aircraft parts, and other new or usable equipment and was buried in a refuse dump just before for a high-level command inspection last week. They blamed loss of equipment, much of which reported was dug up later and stolen on their commander's determination to cover up alleged overstocking of materials and thereby attain a high rating in the base inspection by 7 generals and 38 colonels. Eyewitnesses and participants in a burial described as a month of frantic house cleaning at the bases during which they said the trucks lined up at the dump and enlisted men threw equipment into large holes that they have been dug to a power shovel. They have been dumped a C-5 large plane, and the wing would have fit by the gate of one base in place at an indiscriminate burial operation. Later, a successful inspection of base-wide fear be priority to celebrate top-ranking national officials turned south when reports of the disposal operation began to surface. The commanding officer of the 347 Military Airlift Wing here emphatically denied the allegation of large-scale waste and blamed the converse that has now spread at the base of troublemakers in the Federal Employee Union. Brigadier General Robert L. Mola said in an interview today that if Air Force material had typically be buried in a dump, it might have been either the work of small number of thieves or the work of a misguided official who planned to get some excess stories temporarily out of the way. Mola said that the only supplies dug up so far by the 40s have been some bags of fertilizer, some heavy steel blades for road sweepers, and some box wire sweepers for use by runway and road sweeping machines. Moss said he wasn't able to explain how the equipment had gotten in and dumped, but he said that the incident was under investigation by the Air Force office.
Yeah, must be nice seeing him be the one who's...
Industrial giants. General Motors, Ford, and U.S. Steel notified the government yesterday that
I got all the fans on up there.
they intend to increase prices in 30 days. Where the price freeze lifted up the Monday, the Cost of Living Council said it expects to grow a number of price rise nominations from the industry notifications. On the food front, Council Director John T. Dunlop, the disputed cattle industry, claims that the beef shortage will continue to grow until the next administration lifts its beef price freeze on September 12th. Dunlop said beef slaughter is steadily increasing from a low point 2 weeks ago. Under Phase 4 rules that took effect on Monday, a company with an annual sales that exceeded $100 million must give the government 30 days notice until a proposed price increase. The increase then takes effect until the city council blocks them. Yesterday, General Motors Corporation asked permission to raise prices at an average of $1 and $2 a car. The largest of the big four automakers was said that $85 of the increase was for federally mandated safety equipment and $17 was of company-initiated product improvements for the second biggest automaker. asked for a $106 increase of $106, which said was
Don't you worry about that.
to recover only the cost of meeting 1974 government mandated safety damage building and emission standards with no profit to afford. On Monday, Chrysler and American Motors assured been increases averaging $71 and $35 a car respectively. Cost of living council and regulations do not permit companies to add any profit to cost increases. U.S. Steel, the largest steel maker, said it was filed for a 4.8% price increase on sheet and pine.
How does this mug do that?
Wheat continuing its relentless price surge for the 12th consecutive day, broke for the $5 plateau yesterday in both cash and future markets as it exceeded $4 a bushel for the first time in its history, only 8 days ago. Signaling another food price rise, Agriculture Secretary Erla Butts late yesterday announced that the government is increasing the support subsidy for milk producers by 32% to 32 cents per hundredweight, from $5.29 to $5.61. This would raise the price of milk by nearly 3 cents a gallon. This last increase to the support level was made of March 8th, but the price of eggs and chickens dropped sharply for the first time in weeks in response to what was described as a consumer resistance to record retail prices. The September wheat contract sits $5.07 in Minneapolis as the new record before retreating to $4.93 at the end of the day as some sellers began to take profits. Trading was active for the first time in more than a week, leading some traders to conclude a break in prices was likely in the next few days. The pendulum has already swung too far already without an adjustment. Frederick Coleman, head of Drexel Burnham and Company's commodity department, said referring to the nearly 80% rise in
Seal technology for a strong
wheat future prices, and
that's another safe light advantage.
Safe let repair, safe let replace.
a team of scientists has reported proven that cats can catch cat leukemia from each other. This is the first time that cats among animals has been found to be contagious. But there is no evidence that the cats can transmit this virus to a man. The finding nevertheless has an implication in the hunt for a man vaccine to prevent cancer from a man. The scientist is studying thousands of cats in Boston and New York. Found that cats infected with feline leukemia virus is almost at a 900 times greater risk of getting leukemia than cats who show no sign of the virus. Wherever cats living near infected cats are likely to become infected. Certainly, without a doubt, the leukemia among cats is highly infectious, said Dr. William Stiardi, the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. Later, the team of scientists, reported that their findings in a recent issue of Nature, a prestigious British scientific journal. While Haley's no doubt that the leukemia virus is passed from cat to cat, he said the study has found no evidence that it can be passed from cats to humans. He looked at blood smears from 33 persons living with cats that had cat leukemia virus and 57 veterinary surgeons and from 30 persons who worked in animal hospitals. Other studies show that people who have only and own cats or in contact with them show no greater intelligence. In Phnom Penh, American planes stopped bombing Cambodia Wednesday, ending nearly a decade of U.S. combat in Indochina. Last American airstrike was boarded complete about 15 minutes before the deadline, midnight Tuesday, Eastern Daylight Time, 11 a.m. Washington Time, Wednesday. The deadline was a complete rise between President Nixon and the Congress Tuesday night as the bomb still failed. Local insurgent activity reported near the Cambodian capital, and a military spokesman said the government was conducting a money operation to regain lost territory. Earlier it was reported in Saigon that thousands of Cambodian residents of South Vietnam has reportedly been flown to Phnom Penh to defend its government of Lon Nhat after the bombing halt. According to well-informed sources, the Associated Press reported Tuesday that the soldiers of Cambodian descent had been drawn from regular military units and from groups of civilians with military training. Rather than 10,000 troops have been airlifted to Cambodia by Tuesday, the sources told AP. UPI reported that more than 5,000 Cambodian nationals serving in the South Vietnamese armed services were placed on full alert, but said today, the rumble of heavy bombs still carried over the city, but tomorrow the American warplanes will be gone from Cambodian skies. The deadline will not be coming until 11 a.m. August 15th, Phnom Penh time. And the pilots over there treated their last afternoon in the war matter factly with only an occasional reference to the last day. One could listen to their talk on any radio with a VHF band, and voices came out of the air in the standard jargon of their trade. Cricket, we like some more air. Start large stuff if we could get it, please. Send one spotter plane. Everyone would reply, Cricket, the airborne. Command plane overhead. Cricket, I have a validated truck if you can give me some air. Send another spotter plane. A burst of laughter from Cricket. What are you, a command? Apparently, cricket did not have enough bombers to go around. People of Phnom Penh appear to be taking that seriously. In 6.5 months since the ceasefire went in effect in Vietnam, January 28, U.S. planes have dropped 230,761 tons of bombs on Cambodia and to the lesser extent to Laos and the
Are gonna be an incredible mom.
campaign that
Of course there's gonna be
cost about $422.8 million according to statistics released by the Pentagon yesterday. The bombing in Cambodia was ended at midnight last night under a congressional imposed ban on U.S. combat activities in Southeast Asia. The action will be bring down the curtain on a 9-year-old air war during which some 7.5
we're gonna give the best life possible.
million tons of U.S. bombs were dropped on South Vietnam, which got about half the total of North Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Since the January 28th Paris Agreement, which officially at least ended the fighting in North and South Vietnam for this country, 27,626 struck by fighter bombers there.
Do you really think so?
I've never been more sure of anything.
Virginia Governor Linwood Holton said yesterday they will oppose construction of a proposed airport for private planes at Front Belvoir. The planes use the field would disturb parkland and a 700-acre bald eagle habitat near by Mason Neck. Holton, who last week confirmed that he had thwarted state airport officials.
Yeah, I got your voicemail. I was at the hospital.
Everything okay?
That requested the federal government for permission to use Fort Belvoir and said yesterday that he had given his support knowing that
Oh, yeah, don't text me. That's great, right?
the exact location in the proposed airport and what conservation say that it is a threat of would be the more than 5,000 acres of local, state, and federal parkland on the next part of which made the wildlife refuge because of the presence of bald eagles. Neck juts out of the Potomac River into the southeastern corner of Fairfax County. If there's any possibility of the Barberton Eagles or the park, I don't want to do it. Holton said, I don't want to be building an airport that would be tracked from the park, which is the most beautiful one in Virginia. The airport, which will be built south on Route 1 on Army property, should be the Department of Defense give it permission to come in and shop fire by conservationists. The charge that airplanes from the field would be drive away from the few bald eagles left in the habitat there. There have reportedly been sighted in the vicinity of the refuge. This year, according to the Interior Department spokesman, Holtman said, and promised that the state would be conducting exhaustive environmental inquiries before making any firm commitment that the study shows harm to the neck would result. Holton said he would block construction of the airport, but a spokesman for the governor said yesterday that while Holton had the power to withhold $375,000 in state funds earmarked for the Northern Virginia airport construction, he could not guarantee that a final determination could be made before Holton leaves office on January. As a result of the future of the airport may result with Holton's successor.
Only by a few thousand.
His statement doesn't mean other things that James H. Dillard, a Fairfax County Republican delegate to the state legislature, the governor is just leaving a burden on proof on the citizens to show why. The airport should be built. Continue pressure in Fairfax County citizens need to kill the plan. Charges well by environmentalists and local government officials that the Virginia Airports Authority had been negotiating with the Army for permission to build the Army airport without informing any conservation agency of Fairfax County were given a new twist yesterday. Gene R. Pecker, the chairman of the County Board of Supervisors, revealed that the county had indeed been informed of the full scope of the airport and its location as of early of last December. When Randy Russell was a youngster and growing up in Wisconsin, his family had a timber wolf that roamed in and out of the house. And about the farm, Russell remembers old Lobo as lovable and extremely affectionate. About 10 months old, Russell saw it and out for timber wolves in a hunting
Hope that when I come back,
magazine and bought one for $300 on a trip to Wisconsin. He named the animal Charlie after his grandfather put him in a chain link cage in the basement of his
Didn't Victor just give him
small one-story house in suburban Steve Pleasant. Last Thursday, Charlie escaped some out of a cage where 2-year-old Christopher Russell wandered downstairs. The wolf attacked him and inflicted 41 bite and claw wounds on the child's head, neck, chest, and back. Russell, 25, and his wife Denise, 27. I'm still trying to figure out why that happened. I think we went after Christopher out of curiosity, said Mrs. Russell said yesterday in an interview at his home. Then when Christopher screamed and turned to fear, her husband added. One thing Russell sure, Charlie was not aggressive, didn't mean to hurt the boy if he had intentions to. Russell said he could snap in his fingers crisply like that kill the boy. Crisply was found around his room at Prince George's General Hospital yesterday in good condition and without ammunition ill effects except from some
Your husband over 5 minutes.
dark scabs. Russell figures that the wounds are mostly from nibs and claw marks. If Charlie went into Russell said
Have you driven your children away? Please don't do that with Summer.
fairly wooden coffee table. He could bite through the one like breaking in 3 pieces, 1 piece in his mouth and 1 on each side. Russell, still quick to defend his pet wolf, threatened to sue the state health officials on an ad of it. Attack carried out in their intention of destroying Charlie in order to conduct rabies tests the next day. Afterward, he told that Christopher would have to undergo rabies shots unless the animal was killed. He quickly consented. Charlie turned out to be that free of rabies and Christopher's shots were stopped after that first day. Unlike the animal to destroy, Russell said it and explained it as testament and in Charles' lap. No one bothered him or attempted to explain why he should be destroyed until the afternoon of the attack. While health officials at the time expressed annoyance that they could not get hold of Russell to get his permission to kill the wolf. Russell expressed annoyance yesterday that the officials had not reached him. They could have gotten hold of us at the hospital, he said.
I'm just amazed. It's great. I couldn't be.
Montgomery County Board of Education voted unanimously yesterday not to renew the contract for the 22-year-old avowed homosexual teacher on the grounds that his job was no longer existent. Joseph Ankenfor III entered the county school system as an 8th grade science teacher at Parkland Junior High School in September 1892 in Rockville, will only be removed from a classroom teacher position 8 days later when school officials discovered he had received national publicity connected with a homosexualization at Penn State University. Ankenfor was transferred a $58,000 a year non-teacher position in counties. School System Department of Curriculum for $8,000 with instruction of curriculum and instruction which he held until the end of the 72-73 school year. Annapolis with an August 29th found deadline approaching, many Maryland legislatures are searching for an honorable way to out of the tough law to pass down the requirement and the public disclosure of financial assets. Few see and many others escape. Even as members of the House Committee on Constitutional and Administrative Law conducted hearings today on bills that would have abolished the weakened the present financial disclosure law, legislatures announced that the newly developed federal probe in Maryland officials and Vice President's power to act was made such a measure even more necessary so that state officials can maintain their public confidence. The Civil Disclosure Law was passed on last night at the legislature session in April 1973 General Assembly when it was introduced by Senator Julian Lapides, Democrat of Baltimore, comparably modest measure requiring legislature to disclose only the landholders in the United States. Anyway, announced at the session of the House and the Senate passed the bill back and forfeit Shannon Tough Amendment Minister ordered to force the governor to kill the bill. The expression of the State House at the time was living it the bill to death. To the surprise of the parties after session, both houses have passed the bill requiring them to disclose all their financial assets, everything from stock portfolios to landowners. Governor Marvin Mandel warned that the Internal Revenue Service, after receiving complaints of price increases that violate government guidelines, is preparing to investigate wholesalers who want to provide beef to Washington restaurants. Dave Estate, Public Information Officer for the IRS in the Baltimore, Washington area, said last night that the investigation is planned to respond to a number of complaints that have been increased since the beef prices are going up here.
Any medical condition.
He stated not especially that wholesalers will not be under the scrutiny, nor will be say he precisely when the investigation will begin. Wholesalers were not available for comment last night. Complaints have been zeroing in and more than one beef in the past week. State said he had no estimate that the number of complaints and added that the IRS lacks the manpower to investigate every single one. According to that, the increases in the price of beef found restaurant means that illegal and appraised for economic guidelines, but the price of items served with a beef may be raised. A steak dinner might increase less too many of the potatoes have gone up if the vegetables and the salad sold.
When sweet and salty come together, the taste.
In a long stormy meeting, the Prince George's County School Board approved a plan yesterday to create separate classrooms for habitually disrupt students in at least 10 junior high schools and one special center for such students. Washington's new public school superintendent, Barbara Sosmore, said yesterday that she wants a coalition of parents, school administrators, and community residents, teachers, and students and initiate policies for their local schools. A 32-year-old Washington man spent this past 6 days in D.C. jail despite the fact that all charges of him were dropped on August 8th. Raymond O. McClellan of 923 9th Street, Norfolk, was freed yesterday after an attorney called attention by the oversight by the Superior Court personnel that kept him in jail. Sent by inmates by the D.C. Women's Detention Center ended yesterday, but the protesters waned the stage fervor. Demonstrations and the demands of forms are not swiftly enacted.
Me too, are you gonna...
Blame elimination of federal milk subsidies and the rising cost of milk itself. Both the Montgomery and Prince George's County school boards voted reluctantly yesterday to raise the price from 4 to 10 cents to the price of a half pint of milk sold in the school cafeterias. The increases will go into effect when classes start in September. Alright, now to the weather now. Peter Wiggins. Thank you, Bob. Right now, our current conditions at 1 p.m. reports it's 84 at National, 82 in Andrews, light rain, 82 in Dulles, 80 out in Fort Belvoir, 82 in Annapolis, and then Baltimore, and 84 out in Meade. Rain in Annapolis and Andrews Air Force Base, and it's 84 in Martin, and it's light raining in Martin area of Baltimore. Our radar shows a couple of line of shouts from the Andrews Air Base, searching for Upper Marlboro, searching for the Annapolis area, searching in Chesapeake Bay, from Annapolis.
Garbage. That's not who you are. You do that, huh? Well, listen, given our history,
All right.
I think my testimony would have significant weight. And I'm not going to whitewash it. I'm going to say you're a prickly
A cold front will carry shower and thunderstorm activities into New England,
monster.
and the middle Atlantic states will be a slight chance of thunderstorms in northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, along the Gulf Coast. It'll be warmer over the upper Mississippi Valley, but the remainder of the nation can expect little temperature change. Highs will be in the 70s from the North Atlantic coast and the Great Lakes and along the Pacific coast, but mostly in the 80s and 90s elsewhere.
We'll see if she gets.
From a low just south of Rhode Island, a cold front will trail in the North Carolina coast and the northern Georgia, where it will become stationary and continue to southern Oklahoma. And another cold front will lie from central Ontario and northern North Dakota to low over northeast Montana to central Idaho, and western Oregon will be a low over western Kansas, and highs over northwest Ohio and northwest Colorado. So our forecast for today goes like this. For Washington today, cloudy high in the 80s, low in the 60s. The chance of rain is 70% today and 20% tonight. Thursday, fair high in the 80s. Maryland and Virginia today, cloudy high in the upper 70s in the mountains to mid 80s elsewhere, low in the 60s. There will be a chance of morning showers Thursday, fair highs in the 80s. Lower Potomac and Chesapeake Bay today, cloudy with chance of showers. Winds will be out of northwest at 10 to 15 knots today, falling to 10 knots tonight. Fields will be 5 to 10 miles lower and 1 mile less than heavy rain.
Sharon came by.
West Virginia today, cloudy highs in the mid 70s, low in the 60s. Occasional showers are likely. Thursday, cloudy highs in the mid upper 80s. Extended area outlook for Friday through Sunday. Partly cloudy skies will prevail throughout the period with the chance of afternoon and evening thunder showers. Saturday, Sunday. High temperature will be averaging in the 80s, low temperatures being in the 60s. Sunset 8:03 p.m. and moon rises 8:35 p.m. High tide 10:01 p.m. and low tide 4:29 p.m.
It's not, though. She's just a friend.
Pond count incomplete due to rain. Counts of air quality
Don't remind me, all right?
for yesterday showed the high readings in the Washington area during the period from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. was